Hi there YouTube friends, Carlos Arisate, and welcome back to Mom's Greek Kitchen, the channel where I teach you my mom's Greek recipes in her memory. Today we're doing another classic. It's an appetizer dip spread, Taramosalata. 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 That's a compound word of two other Greek words, taramas, which is salted and preserved fish eggs. In this case it's carp, that's a traditional one, and salata, which is salad. So basically Carp Roe salad. Doesn't sound very good in English, but it's really tasty. Don't worry if you're not a seafood lover. I'm not a seafood lover and I do love this. It comes out slightly pink because of the color of the roe, which is sort of a salmon color, and this is the product right here. We have a little bit of glare there. Can you see it? So the Krinos brand is one of the more world famous ones. And here where I am in west coast of Canada, it was $8.39 Canadian. So it's a lovely sort of orangey salmony pink color, and it goes a nice light shade of this when we make up the salad or the dip. We use the whole jar for this recipe, so it makes quite a bit. It's very salty in its natural state, obviously. And it's great with just spreading on bread or dipping like with pita or stuff like that, or dipping veggies in it. However you like to use dips, it's a great way to use that. It lasts a very long time in the fridge, at least 3 weeks, probably longer. It doesn't usually last that long at home though. Most of them are just the tarama and whatever the base is, along with the flavorings of lemon juice and olive oil. Mom always added onion to hers, so it was a bit special, and it was the best one I've ever had. So that's what I'll be showing you how to make today. It's actually really simple. It just takes a few ingredients and a little bit of time in your food processor, and off you go. Alright, so let's get into the kitchen and I'll show you how to make it. Alright, so the first step is to start with our bread. Now, Mom always used stale homemade bread, and there was always bread at home, of course, because that's basically what we grew up on. There was always bread on the table, even if it was just pasta. So bread would get stale on occasion, so Mom would save that. I don't make that much bread at home. So I went and got some store-bought. You want to get a good bread, like an Italian loaf or French loaf or something of that sort. Something that won't turn slimy, which like sandwich bread, like Wonder Bread type stuff turns into. We don't want that kind of stuff. We actually want a bread with a crust. If you go to a bakery and get something like that, or if you make your own bread at home, that's perfect. I wouldn't use sourdough. And it needs to be a white bread, otherwise the color comes out really funny looking. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the crust. Now this isn't as stale as Mom would let her bread get to, but it will work fine. Don't throw out the crust, because that's a great thing to spread the tarama on and use that all up. You're going to probably need 2 good sized loaves, or equivalent in pieces. The tarama now seems to be a lot saltier than when Mom used to make it. I don't know, there was a moment in time there where there was an embargo on the Carp Roe. You couldn't get it, and the replacement didn't taste right. And I was quite pleased to find that they had brought it back, but it's a lot saltier. So I made a batch. Actually, this is my second batch, because the first batch, my camera did not record. So I'm going to have a lot of Taramosalata. But for you guys, I will do that. So this is actually pretty soft, but I will continue with the next step. Like I said, you'll need at least 2, maybe even 3 loaves. This size, it's not like a huge homemade loaf sort of thing. So anyway, so I will be back with the next step. All right, and just to show you, so this one was from the first batch, and this is quite dry. So if I will treat this one the same way that Mom would treat hers. This one has a bite taken out of it, so you'll know which one is which. So basically what I'm demonstrating is that you can use bread that's pretty stale, pretty dry for this recipe, as well as the squadilla recipe. Alright, so I'll be back when I'm ready for the next step. Alright, we're back for the next step. So here I have a bowl of cold water, just plain water. Mom would normally just run the chunks of bread under the tap, but that's too far away from my camera and all that set up, so I just brought a bowl of water over. I'm starting with the one with the really dry one. And you're just going to basically stick it under water for a second. And let it sit in a bowl or a plate to dry. The fresher bread I'm just going to dip just very little quickly. And I'm actually going to get rid of some of the extra water. And I'm just going to do that with all of our bread pieces. And then we're going to let them sit for 10-15 minutes until the water has penetrated all the way through, softened the one that's dry, and moistened the fresh. So as you can tell, this is a great way to use up stale bread. So don't throw it away if you're planning on, you know, entertaining or making some for the family. This stuff will, like I said, last for quite a while. And it's a great snack. Alright, and I'll be back when we're ready for the next step, after about 10-15 minutes. Alright? Oh, lovely singing bowls. Alright, and while we're waiting for our bread to soak, we might as well prepare our other two ingredients that we need to prepare. So we need a lemon, juiced, or more, depending on how sharp you want it. You can also use vinegar, but the flavor isn't right, in my opinion. Right, Mom always used lemon juice, and that's what I'm used to, and I think it's a much nicer flavor. Alright, so I'm just going to strain the seeds out and our lemon juice is ready. And I'll be back with our next step. Actually, no, we'll do it right now. We need half an onion, grated. And we're going to use the large size of our box grater. And we're just going to grind this down. My onion is falling apart. Good enough. Alright, so we have half an onion grated, we have a lemon juiced, we're going to need olive oil, and that's pretty much all we need for our Taramosalata. I'll be back when we're ready to put it all together. Alright, we're back. So, our onion is grated, our lemon is juiced, I have my olive oil standing by, I've got a little bit of water, I've got my tarama of course, and now I'm going to squeeze the extra liquid out of the bread. Just give it a good squeeze. You want the bread damp, but you don't want it dripping soaking wet. Keep turning it, keep squeezing it. Right. So this is one of the reasons why you want a good bread, because if this was something like a Wonder Bread or something, it would turn into nothing pretty much. It collapses to almost nothing. And then when you actually use it in the preparation, it goes kind of slimy texture-wise. Not very pleasant. Now, tarama can also be made with potato instead of the bread, but Mom always made it with the bread. The potato gives a different texture, which is not my favorite, but you can try it. You'll need quite a bit of boiled and mashed potato. Alright, and there's our piece that was the dry, the one that was really stale. And as you can see, it's just as good as the others. Just remove the water and we're ready to go. So I will clean up here and I'll be back when we're ready to put it all together. Alright, I have my food processor set up and we're just going to spoon the tarama into the bowl of the food processor. I am keeping back a little bit because I want to experiment on something, but the full recipe takes the whole jar. You can just put the whole jar into the bowl of your food processor and proceed from there. Alright, so tarama is little tiny eggs. I don't think the camera will focus on that, will it? But they're really tiny, even smaller than the Japanese tobiko or masago, any of those. So it's really tiny little eggs. And you have to break the eggs to make the Taramosalata. In the old days, Mom used to do it in a wooden mortar and pestle. And she would break the eggs by pounding over and over and over and over until she got to the right color and texture. But once she figured out that the food processor will do that in about 30 seconds, the mortar and pestle was not used any longer. So we're going to put our lid on and we're going to run it just with a tarama in it until the eggs break and the color changes. So pay attention to the color, that sort of bright salmon color. And here we go. Oops, helps if I plug it in. What's going on? Okay, I'm gonna just scrape down the sides. And we'll go again. Alright, so as you can see, it's changing color. And it will continue to do so when we add the rest of the ingredients, but I'm going to do it one more time, scrape it down, get it off the bottom. It's dense, so it likes to sit and not mix really well, so you just give it a little bit of a helping hand. Alright, so as you can see, the color is quite a bit different than where we started. Alright, and that's what you want to do. So the next step is to add about one of those balls of dough, of bread. So you're just going to take it and you're going to crumble it up as you're putting it in. Just mushing it between your fingers so you got little tiny bits. Just makes it easier to blend in, easier for your machine. And you may find a slightly bigger, harder core in the middle where the water didn't quite get to. That's okay, just put it in. It will eventually get mixed up. Alright, at this point we're also going to add our grated onion. And just a little drizzle of the lemon juice. And now we're going to process this to get our base started. Alright, so that's the beginnings of our tarama. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep adding the bread, keep adding lemon juice, olive oil. We want to balance the tartness. Okay, so this is salty. The bread, of course, is a mellowing agent for the salt. We want the sharpness from the lemon, and again, the oil is going to mellow out the lemon. So you balance all four of those pieces together to get a nice, creamy, balanced end flavor. All right, so I'm going to add some more bread and a little bit more lemon juice. And while the food processor is running, I will add a stream of olive oil so it emulsifies. Now the feed tube on my food processor isn't that big, so I'll just stop it. But if yours is big enough that you can actually drop the bread in, it's just easier to keep doing it while the motor is running. So I've added 2 of those balls all at once. More lemon juice. You'll probably take the juice of a lemon. More olive oil, maybe about half to 3/4 of a cup all together. And as you can see, it's getting lighter. It's nice and creamy. I've got some chunks of bread that haven't been processed yet, but we'll keep doing that. Let me just give it a quick taste to see how we are doing flavor-wise. Taste is getting there, but it's still extremely salty. So, more bread. I'm going to pulse it to try and break through those lumps. lemon juice. And add more oil. It's a nice texture. Now you can adjust the texture by adding a little bit of water if you want it runnier, or a little bit more bread if you want it thicker. Let's taste it now. Yeah, almost perfect. I'm going to add the last ball of last ball of bread. And I'm hoping that will mellow it enough. I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. I'm going to guesstimate about a cup of olive oil. It will all depend on how salty you like it, how big your loaf of bread was, how much lemon you put in. So as you can see, this is nice and pretty thick. Mom would make it about this thick. Mom always made it as a sort of like a spread or a dip. If you want it lighter, add some water. Let me taste it first. Yeah, that's good. It's got nice salt, nice lemon. It's mellow enough. It's a little thick for my taste, so I'm going to thin it a little bit with some water. Not too much. Do like a tablespoon at a time. Let's see where we are. Yeah, that's good. Just a little lighter than it was. I still want it thick, but I want it to be able to pour off my spoon, and before it was not. So I think we're going to call that done. Now, this does taste better the next day. It's good now, but the flavors need to sort of mellow. So if you keep it in an airtight container in the refrigerator, like I said, it will last for a very long time. Mom would make it and then we'd have it for several weeks. And then you'd forget it in the back of the fridge and then you try it and it was still fine. So don't worry about it that way. As long as it's covered and doesn't dry out, it's pretty much good to go. You have to remember that grease wasn't always like the best for refrigeration, so stuff like this had to last. Alright, so I'm going to call that done. Now you can, of course, you can dip pretty much anything you want on it. For the most part, we had it almost like a sandwich spread. So it would be in a container, you'd grab a slice of bread, nice homemade bread, a thick slathering of this on top, and that was your snack. But of course you can dip pita in it, or you know, like things like taco chips or tortilla chips sort of thing, whatever you want. Vegetables would be great in this, but traditionally it would be served with or on bread. Alright, so that's our Taramosalata. I hope you liked the video. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. Let your friends know about the channel, share the wealth, and I will see you next time with another recipe. Take care, bye bye.